wearing thin. I don't like intruding in the private lives of my staff. What's what? I don't smell anything. Come on. You better not have led me on a wild goose chase, Hattrick. That is completely unacceptable, if what you're saying is true. Hey, stop right there! Get over here! What's that you have there? Galloway's been recruiting students, I see. Well, we've got him now. What have we here, Hopkins? Drinking? I will terminate the employment contract of any staff member found corrupting children. Morality is the most important lesson we can teach the youth. What's this? And to think I trusted you, Hattrick! You're fired. And as for you, Galloway, there better not be anything to that drinking business. Now, where did I put my copy of KGB Methods for the classroom? No expulsions this month. Am I growing soft? Where is that Miss Danvers with my tea? Jimmy, what did I tell you about keeping your nose clean? What on earth are you doing here? Jimmy, what are you doing with my paddle? What is this? A picture of a student with a prefect's paddle? Insubordination! Miss Danvers! Can you identify the student in this picture? Get him in here, at once! Show some respect! Is your nose clean? Very amusing. Your rudeness has been noted! Absolutely unforgivable! That was not funny! Intolerable! Despicable! You better be careful! Do you know who I am? I'm a busy man, Hopkins. See you. Keep out of trouble now! I'm watching you, Hopkins. Never forget that. Assistance! I need assistance! Help me restrain this mad child! You better stop right there! Stop right now! I will not dignify this foolishness any longer! Your mother will hear of this! I am too old for this! Where has that Miss Danvers gotten to with my tea? It's a tough calling, but a noble one. Mother would be proud. 15 minutes in a locker is not really a serious thing, is it? How nice of young Harrington's father to invite me for tea. Firm discipline is the key. That and toughening up the little whiners so they're ready for the real world. The quality of children has really gone down these last few decades. I will have to do something about this! At Bulworth? Can you imagine someone having done that 10 years ago? I ask you! You are a credit to Bulworth. Now that's the Bulworth spirit. Stop that tomfoolery immediately. I will not stand for such behavior. Hopkins, you know you're not allowed to do that. I sincerely hope that was a mistake, Hopkins. Calm down immediately. Have you completely lost it, child? Give it up immediately. You are a disgrace. You despicable child! It is a difficult calling. It hurts me more than it hurts you. This goes on your permanent record. I'll fix you yet. I just need a quick rest. Children today. I will apprehend you, you vile child. This has to stop immediately. Do not make it any worse for yourself. Oh, how could you? Oh, spitting? Are you out of your mind? That was a mistake. Insubordination. Here, take it. Well, hello there. Everything okay? Anything to report? Hopkins, I don't believe this is beyond your capacity. I expect you to do your best, Hopkins. Jimmy Hopkins, I require you to do something for me. Hopkins, how would you like to improve your record marginally? Do you wish to destroy your academic career? Oh, yes, I'm scared of you. You are a fool and a lout. Is that really the best you can do? You are a pathetic child. You are a disgrace to this school. You're pathetic. Ha 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 ha. Oh, that's very good. That little monster needs to be taught an object lesson. Well, if it isn't young James Hopkins, in trouble again. Jimmy, it seems like you just left my office and now you're back again. Why is it you can't seem to keep your nose clean? Don't answer that. I'm beginning to get very tired of your shenanigans, Hopkins. Well, 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 what have we here? If it isn't young Hopkins again. Jimmy Hopkins, we're really getting to know each other. Isn't that nice? Hopkins, eh? I was hoping I wouldn't see you for a while. You again, Jimmy? I'm disappointed, but not surprised. Look who the cat dragged in, the young delinquent himself. Don't you get tired of coming here, Hopkins? Don't you? So nice of you to drop by my office on your way to prison, young man. Back so soon, Hopkins? Do you ever learn? Let's see what your rap sheet says. I'll just bring up your permanent record. Let's see what we've got, shall we? Looks like you've been quite busy, Jimmy? No rest for the wicked certainly applies to you, it seems. Time to look at your record again. One moment, I'll get your record. Your rap sheet gets longer by the minute, it seems. You've been assaulting students in the washrooms. That's just sick. You've been causing trouble in the toilets. What are you thinking? You seem to spend an inordinate amount of time in washrooms. Most curious. Fighting with carnival workers. Trying to get their jobs, Fighting? Again? I suppose when you hang out with those carnival types, that's not surprising. Billy Crane's circus has been complaining about you. Imagine that. And now you've added cruelty to dogs? That's just charming. Even dogs find you loathsome, it seems. Brawling with adults, Jimmy? That's just unacceptable. There are several reports of townspeople having to restrain you. I am shocked. You are to respect the property and persons of the town, Jimmy. Do you hear me? I see the police had to bring you in. Arrested again, huh? I suppose you think of that as a good early start. When an officer of the law gives you an instruction, you are to obey it. Do you understand? The police have been wasting their time on you, it seems. Perhaps we should just be done with you and put you in jail? You had to be tranquilized to be brought in? Maybe you should slow down a little, Jimmy. The mental health people had to be brought in to bring you under control? Outrageous! I see. Jimmy, the nice men from the asylum are just trying to help you. Clashing with the prefects again? Will you ever learn? You know you really shouldn't struggle when the prefects approach you. The prefects have been commenting on your tendencies toward violence. Several prefects have noticed your propensity for violence. Do not fight the prefects. Am I making myself clear? You've been fighting the prefects, I understand. This is unacceptable. You've forced the staff to drag you in here. Quite extraordinary. A teacher had to physically apprehend you. You are to obey and respect our staff at all times, Hopkins. There will be no more complaints about you from our staff. Do I make myself clear? Breaking into lockers? That's illegal, you know. It seems the concept of private property has been eluding you. Why do you have to break into lockers, Jimmy? Why? Breaking into lockers. I see. You are intent on becoming a criminal, it seems. Vandalism, destruction, disrespect. You're bound for a borstal if you don't smarten up. You're credited with rampant vandalism and destruction. Impressive. Perhaps we should make you pay for all the things you break. Would you like that? You've been cutting quite a swath of destruction, it appears. You seem to have an aptitude for senseless destruction, Jimmy. Our curriculum does not include breaking things. If it did, you'd be a star student. Causing property damage? Who do you think you are, young man? This recent spate of vandalism has to come to an end. Throwing eggs at cars? Really, Jimmy, how juvenile. Egging cars? You can do better than that. Eggs are for cooking, not throwing, Jimmy. Just ask Edna. Seems like you lack the artistic talent to even pass art class. Having trouble concentrating in Ms. Phillips' class? Seems like even Ms. Phillips can't see any good in you. Would you at least try to apply yourself in art class? I see you got a lousy mark in chemistry. Too busy chasing girls? Mr. Watts tells me you're a complete failure. Chemistry seems far beyond you, Jimmy. Perhaps we should get you a tutor. What exactly have you been doing in chemistry class? Certainly not learning anything by the looks of it. It appears you're too stupid to speak your native language properly. I suppose you're too busy trying to steal Mr. Galloway's alcohol to pay any attention? Mr. Galloway seems to think you're hopeless in English. I would tend to agree. English class does not seem to be your strength. You really are a hopeless brute, aren't you? I would have thought you could at least manage to pass photography class. But no, seems even something as reprehensible as photojournalism is beyond you. You're doing badly in photography. Jimmy, what are you good for? Anything? Ms. Phillips tells me you're falling behind in photography class. Do you have anything to say to that? Mr. Burton tells me that you've been doing abysmally in dodgeball. Even basic mechanics seems beyond you. You're unlikely to ever get a job at this rate. I would have hoped that at least shop class would suit you. But no, even menial labor seems too difficult. Honest labor doesn't agree with you, it seems. Otherwise, you wouldn't be such a failure in shop class. You should stop fooling around in shop class. You might learn something useful for your future. What is it, Jimmy? What are you afraid of? Wrestling is serious. Now stop failing the damn class. Mr. Burton tells me you haven't been applying yourself in wrestling class. It seems you're not man enough to do well in Mr. Burton's wrestling class. I'd think you'd do well in wrestling class given your love of violence, but no, another fight? How many this week, Jimmy? How many? You'll have to stop all this brawling you engage in. Students ought not to fight, Jimmy. That includes you. You seem to be a very violent young man. All this fighting. What is it? Video games? You seem to be on a fast track to a conviction for assault. All this fighting will simply have to stop. Jimmy, violence is not a proper way to channel the frustration you feel about your mother. You seem to be constantly in trouble, Jimmy. You seem intent on claiming the spot as Bulworth's #1 troublemaker. I am told that you are always in trouble, Jimmy. Very disappointing. I constantly hear your name associated with misdeeds, Jimmy. I don't like it. It's been reported that you've been throwing newspapers at people. An incident where you made someone cry. Have you no empathy? Do you enjoy making people cry, Jimmy? I'm getting worried about you. Making people cry is not a game. Well, it is not a game for you. It seems you've been preying on the weak, making them cry and so forth. Making students cry is no laughing matter, Hopkins. You've actually made someone vomit. That's just disgusting. Ah, I see. Perhaps your attitude can be explained by your bad luck with girls. It seems even the girls at Bulworth despise you. Well, that's encouraging. Perhaps you should stop chasing girls so much and focus on your studies. Girls don't like you. It's a fact. I suppose that goes a long way to explain things. Gambling for money, Jimmy? I'm not surprised. Perhaps you should leave Bulworth and become a gambler. It seems your heart is more in that. Do you not know that gambling is a surefire way to ruin? You seem to think it's pretty damn funny to pull fire alarms, don't you? Pulling the fire alarm is a serious offense. It will have to stop. The fire alarm is there for safety reasons, not so punks like you can amuse themselves. Trash cans are for garbage, Jimmy, not people. You were seen pushing someone into a trash can, Jimmy. Care to explain yourself? Shoving people into the garbage? Have you any idea of the health implications? Jimmy, rails were made for holding on, not for sliding down. Sliding down banisters is not appropriate behavior for a Bulworth student. I do wish you would stop this banister sliding of yours. So you really think smashing up mailboxes is a good idea? You've been missing your bedtime consistently, Jimmy. That's not good. Staying up too late is known to cause aggression and bad behavior. I suppose you do most of your sleeping in class, Jimmy? Certainly you don't seem to sleep when you're supposed to. Jimmy, the Bulworth bedtime is not a suggestion. It's a rule. You should get to bed at a decent hour, Jimmy. Your mother would want it. You've been stealing bikes? What's next, cars? You've become quite the little bike thief, it appears. This borrowing of bikes you do. It has to end, Jimmy. So, you're the one behind the recent spate of bike thefts. I see. Writing rude words on walls is naughty, Jimmy. Didn't your mother teach you anything? If you could confine your painting to art class and not walls, I'd be very grateful. Most children stop writing on the wall once they're old enough to walk. What is it with you and writing on walls, Jimmy? Graffiti is not an art form. Get it through your head. Mouthing off to the police, Jimmy? It will land you in jail one day. Telling off the police is indicative of a criminal disposition, Jimmy. I would stop it if I were you. You should treat officers of the law with all due respect. You've been disrespecting prefects. That's entirely unacceptable. There is no call for being flippant with the prefects, Jimmy. I was a prefect once, and I will not abide by you being obnoxious to them. Mouthing off to the teachers, Jimmy? I mean, really? What were you thinking? Do not talk back to teachers, Jimmy. Is even such a basic concept beyond you? Disrespecting teachers will do you no good at Bulworth, young man. Picking on the nerds, Jimmy? I agree they are loathsome, but that doesn't justify beating them up without permission. If you have to beat up the nerds, could you at least have the decency to do it out of sight? Keeping the nerds in line is perhaps acceptable, but you should not let yourself get caught. Victimizing social losers is a time-honored tradition, Jimmy, but I feel you've been going overboard. It would seem you suffer from some sort of anxiety about sports. Why else would you fight our star athletes? Do not tangle with the football team, Jimmy. They're better than you, plain and simple. I see the football team had to keep you in line. If you injure anyone on the football team, you will be in serious trouble, young man. Brawling with your social betters, Jimmy, it won't do you any good. You shouldn't fight with Harrington's friends, Jimmy. Any one of them may be your boss one day. Are you some sort of socialist, Jimmy? Why else would you cause trouble with Darby's friends? You will respect young Harrington and his associates. The Harringtons have been fine Bulworth men for generations. Getting into fights with school lowlifes? I'm not surprised as much as disappointed, Jimmy. I understand that you dislike these so-called greasers, but this fighting is getting out of hand. I would recommend not tangling with Johnny Vincent and his friends too much. One day they may be your colleagues in some menial job somewhere. I don't understand why you have to fight Johnny Vincent's friends. You seem so alike. Is it over that girl? What's her name? You've been fighting with the local children, Jimmy? Why do you even associate with them? You are not to mix with the local children, Jimmy. It just leads to fighting, as you well know. These so-called townies are a bad influence, even for you. Do not mix with them. It behooves a Bulworth man to keep away from scum like the local children. You've gotten into a lot of trouble so soon, Jimmy. Is it a cry for help? Is it that you miss your mother that much already, Jimmy? You seem to have trouble adjusting to Bulworth life. You will have to try harder. Darby Harrington's father has called me to complain. Have you any idea what this could mean for the school? You'd better not engage in any reckless street racing. I hear there's a lot of that going on. Edna has been saying kind things about you. Personally, I don't see it. What exactly is it you've been doing with Lola, Jimmy? Johnny Vincent is a bad influence, Jimmy. I want you to stay away from him. Would it be too much to ask you to embrace the spirit of Christmas and be good for once? You better not do anything to disturb the football team's training program. Why don't you put all this energy of yours into supporting the football team? Have you ever thought of becoming the school mascot? Then you'd be somebody. Well, it looks like you've fought your way to the top, Jimmy. Just because you think you're the daddy doesn't make you special in my eyes. Your reputation gets you nowhere with me, young man. I am this close to expelling you, Jimmy. I've had quite enough of all your antics. You think it's a good idea to act up, Hopkins, at this time? Everybody hates you, Jimmy. Everybody! Well, Jimmy, you'll have to learn there's a price for misbehaving. Looks like I'll have to confiscate some of your stuff. Maybe then you'll get the message. I'll be taking some of these things. Obviously, you'll just use them to get in trouble. Perhaps a small personal loss will drive the point home. I will take this hooligan paraphernalia. There is a price for bad behavior, Hopkins. You shouldn't have these things. And I suppose I'd better take this. I am not a fan of confiscating things, but you leave me no choice. I'd like you to mind what I've told you. Perhaps a small loss will help you in that regard. Mr. Hopkins, I am of the opinion that some good works would do you a world of good. Go see the punishment prefect. What should I do to improve your attitude, young James? You better pay a visit to the punishment prefect. A little physical labor might set you straight. I think you're worth a try. Go see the punishment prefect. Perhaps he can improve your attitude. Now, Jimmy, why don't you try to show that you've understood the seriousness of all this? You might as well get used to working off your bad deeds. I understand it's quite common in prison. Well, I don't suppose labor will really help the situation, but it's worth a try. This is your only warning. Don't mess up again. Now get out of here. And that's the last I want to hear of you, Hopkins. That will be all, Hopkins. You may go. And I want you to stay out of trouble from now on. I do not want to see you back here for any reason. That is all, Hopkins. Goodbye, Hopkins. I hope this will be your last little visit, Hopkins. You are dismissed. Now, go and think about what I've said. Who threw that rat? Hello, young Hopkins. Your nose is still clean, I trust? James Hopkins. Stop this disrespect immediately! Hooliganism is not tolerated! I suppose that is adequate. Admirable. I am not surprised. Everything is worse these days. Unsurprisingly disappointing. Are you out of your mind, child? I saw that. Stop that terrorism immediately. Where did you get that? What a hideous smell. Just you... Wait! That will go on your record! You will not live that down! You will be punished for that! You will not get away with that! I saw that! Keep it up and you'll get expelled! Are you challenging me? I have more important things to attend to. Aren't you the jokester? Keep it up! See what happens. You're lucky I'm in a good mood today. Follow along now, Hopkins. Hopkins, come. Now, please, Hopkins, follow me. You better come along. I suppose I better thank you, James. I thank you. Do not run astray, Hopkins. Where exactly do you think you're off to? Hopkins, that is not what you're